coming up, we've got a session talking about customer service beyond the pandemic, and looking at a real life case study as to how a particular insurance company has responded to changing customer expectations, and changing customer requirements. I guess we've all been party to contacting organisations and maybe losing a bit of patience around, using COVID as an excuse now to maybe not deliver the service that customers are expecting. So I think it's lots of the conversation we're hoping to have over the next hour is to try and get under the surface a wee bit, and to take into account those considerations that businesses are thinking about just now, to make sure that they're on the right path to respond to customers as best they can. I'm delighted to be joined by Steve Kennedy, who is Head of Solutions EMEA at eGain, who's one of our session partners today. And Steve's going to be giving us that overview of the tools that this insurance company have used through eGain, and then also, how they've responded to the piece around the pandemic and their customers. We'll have time for questions at the end of the session, so please use the Q&A function or chat function. If you want to post those questions as we go, that's not a problem. And then I'll pick them up at the end. But over to Steve just now, and I'll be back with you just shortly.
Hi there, and welcome to today's session. Today we're going to be taking you through a presentation around delivering digital customer service beyond the pandemic, and we're going to have a look at how a customer has done it. We're going to be focusing on things like what it means, how to do it, and how to make it go beyond that. But before I start, I just wanted to take some time to take you through a little bit about who eGain are. eGain are a global SaaS company providing an industry-leading digital customer engagement platform. This provides you with a multi-channel capability of servicing your customers in the way that they want to be able to interact with you when they're asking you questions or when they're doing business with you. A little bit about who eGain are. We were founded in 1997. We have headquarters in Sunnyvale with offices in EMEA and APAC. And we focus on the omni-channel customer engagement solution. This contains digital engagement capability with multiple channels. We've got artificial intelligence being used to help support your engagement with your customers, underpinned through knowledge management and supported through analytics. So the whole idea is that you use all four of these components together to provide a high quality customer service to your customers. We currently focus our product set to the enterprise B2C market space with customers in the financial services, in telco, in retail, in health, in government verticals. So the idea is we can cover a large amount of the businesses that are out there today with our tool set and how our tool set actually works. If I look at some of our customers very, very quickly from left to right, financial all the way through to healthcare, we have a broad breadth of customers, people like Barclays, Lego, Boohoo, Virgin Media and Vodafone, large organizations who are using our applications to provide this high level customer care to their customers. If I look at the tool set that supports all of this, just very, very quickly from a graphical perspective, in the middle of the screen, you've got the eGain Customer Engagement Platform, which is made up of four components: the messaging hub, the historical view of the customer, giving agents that intelligence. So it's a 360-degree view. You've also got artificial intelligence and knowledge working together to support all the channels, as well as machine learning and analytics to help you continually improve the service that you're offering. In the gray area, that indicates all the different channels that we have, everything from website, the old traditional way of approaching customer service, right the way through to the telephony side and the IVR. Taking all of those multiple channels and bringing them directly into a single desktop, empowering your agents to work seamlessly across all the channels, irrespective of the one that they're focusing on right now. And then naturally, the blue line indicates that we've got a full integration to the different backends that you have already got in service today. Things like e-commerce, CRMs of the world, intranets, and bringing in the non-digital component with regard to contact centers, the telephony side, all into that single platform, underpinned by exactly the same knowledge, irrespective of the channel. And I think that's important to remember. One of the nice things is that although we talk about this quite a lot, we've got other companies and other organizations talking about our delivery to the customers and what they're seeing. Things like assuring the customer that they're able to get the information that they need through the digital first service increases your net promoter score by up to 20 points. You can improve your self-service for your customers to about 54% more than what you're doing today. Providing that customer with the faith and the understanding that they can come to you whenever they want to get that support. They don't necessarily have to wait for your opening hours. And I think it's an important factor to remember. The other side is that you can then empower your agents with the tool set, and you can see a change of FCR by up to about 21%. Your agent confidence grows because they're able to find the right information when they need it and when they want it. And using the platform, you're able to reduce your training time. You train your agents on how to use the tool set and let the knowledge in the system deliver information where they need it, when they need it. Because we're in the cloud, we're an agile business, which means we're going to innovate for you 2 times faster. It means when new things come in, because it's in the cloud, you get benefit of those so much quicker and so much easier. For yourselves, there's zero IT management as well. So from a management perspective, within your organization, it's removing that cost away by being in the cloud. And naturally, you can then optimize in real time. You can make sure things are moving quickly. They're organizing within your company to take advantage of everything that's new very, very quickly. With the streamlined technology that we have, it's secure, it's scalable, and it's in the cloud. We've got 24/7 monitoring, which means we invariably know that there may be an issue with your environment before something comes that you notice it. We've also got that concept of being easy to integrate to your other data backends because we're in the cloud. If your CRM's in the cloud, we're in the cloud, that integration layer becomes so much easier and so much quicker to be able to deliver. So that's all the technical side of what we're going to talk about. During the COVID pandemic, we actually decided we would run a customer survey of about 1,000 odd customers out there. Now, these aren't our customers, these are your customers. We wanted to try and understand what the impact of COVID had on digital customer service. How did it change the face of things for customers? And was it for the good or was it for the bad? So we asked a couple of questions. One of the biggest things we thought of focusing on was this whole concept of how many people have increased using the digital customer service environment for the questions that they're asking. And you can see here that there's been an 80% increase in the number of successful usages for this. And I think, historically, people always or customers always talked about, yes, we want to go digital. Yes, we've got digital in our plan. With COVID-19, we had no choice. We had to go digital. You had to move into that space of not having people in an office or not having people in a shop because of the situation of COVID. And I think that did jump up quite impressively, that whole concept of digital first, digital time and time again. So bearing that in mind, we thought we'd then look at the generations of who were actually using it more than others. And we did see an increase in the younger generations of using more and more digital effectively. Okay. And I think that is pretty key. We know that most of our younger generation are digital by design. They're part of that digital movement and they will do everything that they can digitally. But we saw them have an uplift in how much they were using it as well. So naturally, with that use, we then started to look at, was it positive or was it negative with regard to what was the change? Okay, and how did they feel about it? And again, same principle. More and more people are becoming positive about that digital engagement, that ability to do things themselves quicker when they want to because of the situation. Yes, we were thrown into it. We had to do this, and it was by far a better option. So what's the choice? how do people actually communicate with an organization? So we asked this question as well. You know, which of the following endpoints did you rate your best satisfaction with? And right at the top was email, right at the bottom was chatbot, and everything else kind of like falls in the middle of that. And if you think about it, chatbots, especially pre and during the COVID timeframe, they were still very, very new, very, very shiny. People were still developing them, were figuring out how they work. And it was a case of that sometimes they didn't answer the questions at all, which is why you see such a low impact right now. The chatbots did not provide that high level of customer satisfaction. And that's going to change. The more and more people become able to use chatbots, be able to develop chatbots, and be able to make them do what they really want them to do, we will see that shift in how things are going. Bearing in this mind, with so many different channel options available, one of the questions we then asked was, okay, you may use multiple digital channels to talk to your vendors, but how often did you get different answers depending on the channel that you went? And there's 57% of the people that we spoke to said that yes, if they use a different channel, they did get different answers. And again, it's quite telling because as we bring on more and more of the channels, we need to make sure that our knowledge is spread across those channels evenly. Everybody uses the same knowledge. A little later on, when we look at how we can actually do this or how we do this, we'll start to talk around some of those features that enable you to use one knowledge across everything. So as we moved on with some of the questions that we asked, one of them we asked is, you know, which of the industries do you feel provide a decent digital customer service? And right at the top, you'll see the bank or the credit unions right at the top there. And right at the bottom, it's the government agencies. And again, retail, including the online retail, is quite high at the top there, with everything else starting to fall down. And I think there's two reasons for this. One, the banks have been digital for quite some time. And again, forced into this situation, they needed to do things better. The government side of things, yes, we talk more and more about digitally first exercises that are going on, but because of the sudden appearance of COVID where everything had to be, it wasn't perhaps where it should have been. So bearing that in mind with the industry performing rankings, one of the next things we focused on is, well, what about customer satisfaction? Where did you see that change? Where did you see an uplift and how? So you'll notice that on this particular slide, again, the government organizations were the one that dropped their customer satisfaction because I couldn't walk into a government office to get support, or I couldn't walk into a council to get support because they were shut. I had to reach out on a phone. Phone was sometimes dragging its heels, and you can imagine the customer service that came about. If you look at some of the other ones, the retail and the healthcare, that's where we saw customer satisfaction remain the same or actually grow. They were used to working in this environment. And so as a result of that, they were quite readily available to adjust. Following on from that, so you've now got all these verticals that are going digital, but which ones of those gave you your preferred option? And I think, again, with the government, because their options are very limited, that wasn't as high as perhaps some of the other industries like retail, where they're grabbing hold of this whole digital channel and they're providing what their customers really need according to their choice, which gives you as a customer that freedom to decide which way we're actually going to approach an organization and how we're going to approach it. And again, we'll talk about some of those in a little time and how different things can be achieved using the toolset very, very easily. Remember the question that we asked where we said there were 57% people who were getting different answers based on the channel that they chose. One of the biggest culprits were the healthcare and insurance industry, where you had siloed information or you had agents who were working in siloed scenarios where they weren't necessarily able to make use of everybody's experience or everybody's knowledge to bring that information to the bear. And that was the one that stood out the most with regard to different answers for different channels. And it's key that as you bring more channels on, you try and standardize the answers that you're actually giving to ensure people are getting the same answer every single time, irrespective of how they did it. So we've spoken about who we are. We've told you a little bit about a survey that we did during the pandemic period to try and isolate what people were finding and how we can actually take that and progress it forward. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take you through a customer of ours who have done this both pre and during the pandemic and how they've actually grown and some of the benefits that they've seen with implementing the system and adding different channels through the time. But before I start that, just some things that you need to think about, especially when you start navigating this road or following this road, and highlight some of the things that you need to try and avoid. Benjamin Franklin quoted once that said, "If you fail to plan, you are planning to fail." So think about what you're doing, make yourself a plan, but make it adaptable too. Avoid point solutions, silos, because it's when you have point solutions that you then start to have disparate knowledge systems, and each one may be having their own answer for a specific scenario. And it is very difficult to try and keep that aligned with each other. If you're going to develop something, or if you have developed something, make sure you take advantage of best practice consultation if you can get it. Ask other people how they're doing things, get guidance from these areas and understand what's happened. If you do take on a platform toolkit, make sure it's not just checkbox application functionality, but it's actual functionality that fits together, that works together hand in hand with everything else that you're trying to do. So today we're going to be looking at a company of ours called Trig Insurance. They've been using our application for a long time. And as we go through this, you'll see some of the stuff that they have done and the results that they've got. But just a little bit of background of who Trig Insurance are. It's one of the largest non-life insurance companies in the Nordic region with activities across Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. They've got approximately 3,300 colleagues. Now, if you look at this from a COVID perspective, those 3,000 odd colleagues were in different locations. They were in buildings. And you can see just underneath that, they were in the east and west. They were in Oslo and they were in Bergen from a Norway country perspective. Now, you imagine when COVID hit, those 3,300 colleagues all went to their own homes. So instead of having 2 offices, you've now got 3,000 offices that you've got to work with. Okay. And this is some of the difficulties that they started to have. The other thing to know is that currently Trig Insurance is the 3rd largest insurance company within Norway, and they've done quite a lot. If I highlight the journey very, very quickly, they joined eGain in 2015, launching their chat environment. And previous to that, they had everything running within Lotus Notes, their knowledge and their emails coming into Lotus Notes and being used by their colleagues to address customer queries and support customers on anything that they have. In 2015, they launched chat for customer service for private customers, and that was their beginning of their journey. In 2018, they started looking at, okay, how do we start to provide the right level of knowledge that people don't struggle to find things in other systems? Let's start to give them everything that we need. So they started on a small group of users first, but when that started, they had also then expanded their use of chat across all their departments and not just for one department. In summer of 2019, just before COVID started to become a problem, they launched their knowledge base in full scale for all their private customers. And towards the end of 2019, they then shared knowledge base across the claims department as well. So you can see this general progression going forward. At the end of 2019, that's when we hit with COVID, and you can see that they still launched email in 2020, right at the beginning, across all departments. Now, if you think about it, they started with chat, they rolled out knowledge, then they rolled out email. That knowledge base that they've had now in usage all through this time is available for everybody to use within the tool set. Okay, come 2021, they're starting to expand and they're aiming to expand knowledge with across more departments, as well as then expanding their omni-channel capability to handle voice, guided help, all of it available for the users. Now you can imagine that this journey was hastened in 2020 because of the pandemic situation. So their chatbot is named Mia. She's available 24/7. She answers easy questions and general questions, navigating people around the website. So the whole idea was to have Mia answer the high volume, low complexity type questions so that they could then get the calls that are going into the call center agents that were the ones they really needed to focus on, which then gave the call center agents the time to deal with those type of questions that they really need to spend the time. From a knowledge-based perspective, this is what it used to look like. Agents had to know where to go and find information. There was no feedback capability. It was kind of like a single page of knowledge. Go back and find more if you need anything more about this topic. When they moved to the eGain environment, they produced a portal that looked like this: cleaner, easier to use, laid out in a fashion that is adaptable. You've got the ability to search if that's the way you like to get access to knowledge. You've got the ability to browse for knowledge on the left-hand side, the topics. Or you can have single click to knowledge by using the popular articles on the right-hand side. So you really have this freedom to choose how you want to access knowledge from a user's perspective. If we then start to drill down and show you some of the functionality, bottom left-hand corner, where a user is typing a search, as they're typing search, the system prompts for some information, guides them maybe down specific articles that they're looking for or specific knowledge that they're looking for, saving time. In the middle of the screen, once I find what I wanted to look at and I click on it, it then presents me with that knowledge. But not only that, it gives me the ability to give feedback. It gives me the ability to save this knowledge article as something I want to use later, or I can share this with somebody. At the bottom, you'll see related articles, and that gives me that ability then to link other articles to this. So if there's more information or if there's additional information that they may be interested in seeing, very, very easy to access. If you look at that search results right at the top, we're bringing back snippets of information. So you can see whether this is something that you want to click on before you actually commit to view that article, giving the agents that ability to quickly discover what they're looking for at that point. Now, when COVID hit for Trig, the bottom green line shows where they were in 2019 from a number of calls coming in. Pretty much sitting at just under 1,000. In 2020, because of the COVID situation, the red line gives you an increase in how they spiked the volume of calls that they were dealing with. Okay. Yes, it slowly started to come down as things started to even out and people were starting to look at it. But you will then notice that it is still almost 3 times as much as the volume was 3 times as much as what they were used to seeing. And I think that's key for what we look at next. Based on that, they had a goal of 75% or 75 for their customer satisfaction. They attained 73. So they were 2 points shy of what they were trying to achieve. Now you can imagine with that increase in number of calls coming in 3 times, they were still able to achieve a high customer satisfaction. Okay. Their agents were spread all across the organization. They brought part-time people in to cope with the amount of claims that were in during that summer timeframe. And I think that's important because of the flexibility of the tool, because of the ease of using of the tool. Agent training time comes down. The knowledge is available. The history of the customer is available. It gives you that capability of ensuring the information is there, easy to use, and you don't have to worry about not necessarily knowing everything about it. You can support what it is that you're doing. So if I look at it from a graphics perspective, what they saw using the eGain knowledge, using the environment, they're increasing their first call resolution, their agent satisfaction and their customer satisfaction through this time, especially with that high jump. And that is just going to continue as they move forward. Now, as I take a look at the approach that was used to actually get this done and how it was done, so one of the things that as an organization you need to look at is connect with your customers across as many touch points as you can, touch points that they want to connect with you, okay, through that digital omni-channel, okay? It's that first time. Contextualize your customer journeys. By using a centralized knowledge base through the solve capabilities, you're able to ensure that it doesn't matter which channel a user comes in on, they're getting the right information all the time. Okay, single source of information, right answer. It also means that all your agents can effectively resolve all your contacts. And I think as we move out of the pandemic, where you have people coming back into offices slowly but surely, that's going to be key. Give the agents that freedom to work across everything. Naturally, because of this quick turnaround, you then can optimize through the learnings that are available in analytics. All right, the insights and the and accelerated product innovation brings you that capability to change things very, very quickly. You're working with your VA, monitor what your VA is doing, how it's doing, and change where needed using autonomous orchestration through microloops. That whole capability of changing things very, very quickly and as easily as you can. Now, I've taken you through who we are as a company. I've taken you through the survey that we did, finding those areas where things are changing or things need to change. We then looked at one of our existing customers and how they started out and followed a journey to get where they are. And they're going to continue that journey post-pandemic, bringing in that freedom, that capability, and that ability to provide what the customers are looking for. So let's talk to you a little bit about how you can actually give this a try yourselves. eGain offers something called Innovation in 30 Days. It gives you the ability to actually try something, try knowledge, try chat, try VA. It takes 4 weeks, roughly speaking. 2 weeks are all about discovery and configuration. That's right at the beginning of the project. 2 weeks of operation, where we get you to work with some of your agents in the contact center, as well as some of your customers, to show how you can see the benefit of what it is that we're talking about personally yourself, and not having to rely on people's words or people's comments when they've tried it, but you can give it a try yourself. At the end of those 4 weeks, you can then make that decision. Do we continue with eGain, or do we leave eGain alone and maybe go look somewhere else? The most important thing is that there is no cost, there is no catch, and there is no commitment to move beyond the 4 weeks that we spend with you. What we do require is during those 4 weeks, you've got people who are helping us do this. You've got people we talk to from the discovery perspective. We'll go through the configuration and we'll work with the people we worked with to make sure that it is correct. Then during those 2 weeks of operation, we'll be working with your agents to help them get the best out of the system as they can in those 2 weeks and prove what it is that we are talking about. Now, if you're interested in this, there's several ways we can engage with you. The first one is that link at the bottom there. Go to egain.com, contact us, and get started with us. The other way is during the Q&A session, you might show some interest and we'll have one of our guys reach out to you post the session. Or conversely, after the session, you can always reach out to us as well through the platform, and we can engage with you to take you to the next step. Now, before I do end the session, I'd just like to say thank you very much for actually spending the time with me. Really appreciate it. And we're now going to go into a short question and answer session where, by all means, feel free. Ask us any questions and we will endeavor to answer you. If I don't get to everybody's answers or everybody's questions, we will spend some time afterwards answering your questions at a later stage. So for now, I'll hand you back over and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Steve. Really informative. Loads of content there within the presentation, and I know you and I have chatted before about these kind of things. So it's good to see you. I'm
Likewise,
just
Polly.
going to work through a couple of the, I guess, the kind of questions I think would be good to pick up on. A few points that I've picked up on certainly as we were going through the slides. So, you know, customers, I guess, is all, as we are all customers, we know that when we contact organisations, we're really not very patient about the because of COVID response any longer. That's a given. We're 15 months in. We're expecting organisations to be much more controlled with these things, much more able to respond. But as customers, we also compare our local authority to our mobile provider, to our utility provider. We're not thinking about, oh well, I'm expecting a lower service because it's my local government, or I'm expecting a better service because it's my mobile provider. So we're measuring apples and oranges and pears and bananas, aren't we, as we go through. So I guess one of the things that I'd like to maybe pick up on, just based on what you were chatting about, is what would you suggest the quick wins for businesses who are perhaps maybe aren't performing as they like to at the minute? What would you suggest, some kind of things that we can pick up on quite quickly?
So some of the things that you can pick up quite quickly is to try and isolate or establish where those holes are in what you're doing. And a lot of the times it's giving that assurance to a customer of an event taking place. And I think especially during this period of time, somebody places an order, somebody does something or engages with you, go back and assure them continually, proactively, that something's going on. Because during pandemic, kind of like went into a black hole. Because people weren't in an office, you never really were able to find out what the state of play was about an engagement that you had. And I think that is one of the quickest wins that you can actually put in place very, very quickly, very, very easily. It doesn't take loads amount of work, but what it does do, it does provide that assurance to customers that things are going in. That then will reduce the calls coming into the call center, which means you can then take the calls that are coming into the call center and deal with them in a better manner because you're not being inundated.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that communication is key, isn't it, across the piece with
Yes.
this. And again, as customers, we only want to be told, don't worry about it, we've got it in hand, regardless of whether it's your package delivery or, you're moving house or whatever it is. You just want to feel that confidence in whoever you're dealing with, that they know what they're doing and they're keeping you informed along the way, for sure. And I think, you talked about Trig's tactics of starting small with what they were doing. And I know that was obviously over a period of a number of years and had to really turn a lot of that in its head, as every organisation did, and responding to the pandemic. And they obviously worked through that as they were maturing. But for those organisations that are maybe a bit less mature in their self-service and automation journey, what would you be their advice to where should they start? Maybe if they're thinking, I mean, $1 million question. If you get this right, you've kind of won the lottery, haven't you? But
yeah, definitely.
Where should they start?
So I think, it to be honest with you, it doesn't really matter where you start. The big thing is you've got to start. But equally, once you've started, you've got to be able to be adaptable to make things continually improve. So it's pointless starting out and then just letting it run its course. You've got to look at how you can measure, manage, and optimize. And those are the three things that you should always be doing, no matter where you start. Whether you start something really, really simply with regard to maybe putting a VA on a website to take the pressure off the call center, it's a case of make sure that that is behaving correctly. And a VA is a virtual assistant or a chatbot, something along those lines.
Yeah.
So the idea is, whatever you choose to start with, whether it's chat, whether it's a chatbot, whether it's knowledge within a contact center where you're standardizing your knowledge now, make your iterations small and sharp so that you're continually improving as you go through. Because the more we do that, it means that you're going to hit what the customers are looking for.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, listen to what your customers are talking to you about. The worst thing we can ever do is start out thinking this is what we're going to provide. We're going to give everybody SMS, but everybody's using WhatsApp, for example. So you've got to listen to what your customer wants as well, or how they want to approach you, and give them that flexibility. But then measure, manage, and optimize.
Yeah, I mean, I think the analytics thing, I think, is quite critical in this. You mentioned that through some of your presentation, and I think I know from just even people that we're talking to that there is that, well, I guess review, shall we say, of measures that are in place that would have been traditional in any kind of customer service environment. But those were, well, one, we need to understand whether they were fit for purpose to begin with, and then secondly, need to think now that we're not in that physical space, are the measures, how we review the information that's there from customers, that insight, is it fit for purpose now? And how can businesses really better use the analytics to make the right decisions about how they respond to customers? What would your advice be there?
So if an organization is going to have a look at analytics, you need to look at it from a joined up process. You can't look at it in silos. And I'll keep coming back to this all the time, because if you look at any customer engagement, they will start with you on one channel and they will traverse the channels depending on what part of the journey they're actually in at that point in time. And it's important that if you are going to try and measure and manage that, you need to make sure that it's all available in a single analytical platform, because then it becomes easier to understand.
Yep.
And the easier it becomes to understand, the greater things you can actually do with that knowledge, with that insight. I mean, the worst case scenario is if you think about a contact center agent, typically they don't necessarily have information on that entire customer from end to end, because if you're on a call and you say to an agent, I sent an email yesterday, 9 times out of 10 the agent says, I haven't seen the email, because he doesn't deal with them.
Yeah.
So when you look at it like that, it then means that even our reporting structure needs to be linked as well.
Definitely.
To ensure that you can measure right across everything.
No, that makes sense, and I think it is something that people are working through, is to understand whether what they're measuring just now are the right measures. And you're right, because people are more remote, but they're not able to just chat to somebody next to them and ask them the question and say if they've missed something, or how do they get to access those things, that information that they would have quite easily have done before.
Very, very much so. And I think, when we were all sitting in one office, we had our colleagues right next door to us. If we had a sticky situation, we could ask for help and support. That no longer happens anymore. Yes, we've got teams in the background, but it is in the background, and trying to work out how we share that information so much quicker and so much easier.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to there's a quick polling question I want to put out to attendees today, just to give us a flavour for, what people are looking at on this kind of piece. So I'm going to just launch this, bear with me. We've talked about customers, some reports are saying they're no longer accepting COVID as an excuse for limited or poor service. So, from those attending today, in your opinion, is your organisation meeting customer service expectations? Because I think we all understand from our own organisation's point of view some of the challenges that are there and the challenges that we're trying to overcome. So we'll let that run just for a few seconds, Steve, and then we can maybe have a quick chat around the results. And I've got a couple other questions to work through, but we've still got a wee bit of time, so plenty of time to do that. But it's a challenge, isn't it? And we can't just accept it, and some people are still using that quite readily as an excuse for businesses. And
they are. It's always that fallback. Oh, well, we can't do this because we don't have enough staff anymore. And I think, or we can't get access to the staff quickly enough. I think that needs to stop what we're doing right now, because yes, right at the beginning of pandemic, that was sound, because while you're trying to put things in place and all of that jazz, but now theoretically you should have put it in place. Now you need to make sure that everything keeps moving forward from here onwards.
Yeah, absolutely. So just very these are quite kind of short and sharp and to the point responses, but we can see the report suggests 56% are saying that they are meeting customer expectations. And then interestingly, 31% are saying just some of the time. So, that's quite an interesting piece there. So clearly everyone's still a bit of a work in progress in that regard. But yeah, interesting nonetheless. Okay, we've got time for still another couple of questions. So I'm just going to work through what we've got here, Steve. So one of the things I think is quite interesting, given that we've had people moving from a physical environment to everyone being much more remote and using maybe staff to respond to customer service that wouldn't traditionally have been in a kind of customer contact environment. So, have you seen any instances of people that you work with in redeploying idle employees, idle in inverted commas, I guess, because I'm sure they're not idle. If you're working in a branch, you can't help the fact that you work in the branch and not the contact centre,
No,
and you work in the store and not the contact centre. So, where have you seen kind of good redeployment of that kind of resource?
You're 100% correct there, because that idle term is literally, I can't do the job that I used to do anymore, or what else can I do, kind of idle. And I think that, we've seen that a lot of times when you have had groups of people who are focused on one particular thing because of a change in behavior, whether it's a customer behavior or whether it's the business behavior. You can effectively take those people and retrain them. Now, one of the things that eGain allows that capability of actually making sure that all people who are using the system are able to answer the questions. I remember some time back we even had a CEO who actually went onto the floor, picked up a call, and was able to deliver a high level of support because he's got all the tool set available to you.
Yeah.
And Trig did that very, very effectively. They're still doing it very, very effectively, except that now they're focusing also on, at peak times, being able to bring people on board. You've got the structure in place. You've got the knowledge, which is not siloed, and you've got the business information around your customer all joined up, which means when somebody comes on board to help, who's not necessarily a contact center agent, they're able to utilize the tools and find a way to answer the customers, but with a position of intelligence. They've got the right knowledge. They don't have to worry about that anymore. They've got information about this customer co-joined with back end systems, and they've got history around what this customer has done, whether it be past calls or past activities, or whether it be purchasing stuff that they've done. So that brings all of that together, and the more you have it joined, the easier it becomes to deploy people very, very quickly.
Yeah, and again, I think we've all had that experience, haven't we? Whether we've been in a store and they're saying, "Well, actually, I can't help you. You need to phone the contact centre," or vice versa, or it's a branch.
Correct.
There's definitely been some good examples of people being quite smart with even using their kind of, I guess, the real estate that they've had available. So whilst they maybe couldn't have had people physically coming in, if they're maybe altered the hours of the kind of branch opening hours, but using maybe other space that they had to respond to customer service inquiries that come in on phone or whatever other kind of channels. I think
very much so.
There's definitely some good examples of that. I guess another thing that people tackle as a kind of ongoing problem is that securing investment. Getting budget to make these changes is always a challenge, and I guess we've had a bit of a good opportunity over the last wee while to maybe fast track some of those decisions that would have maybe taken a bit longer. So, how do you continue the investment and interest and engagement once we get past COVID? Once we get past this point in time that we feel we're all kind of stuck in just now. How do we keep people interested in investing in customer service? I guess is the critical question.
That's always the $1 million question, right? Because customer service is seen as that cost drain on an organization. I think one of the big things is that we've proven during the pandemic that even though we might not have a full present system where everybody is present in the one thing, being online, you can still achieve the same type of success. Going digitally means that you can then start to look at places where you can actually reduce costs. And it's just a case of literally finding those points and working with them very successfully. We've had 18 months of data gathering with regard to what customers have successfully done digitally and what customers have struggled to do digitally.
Yeah.
And I think it's at that point in time that you need to look at that, take that, glean from it, and use that to drive that investment going forward. Plus, I think the other thing is that as technology becomes smarter, because technology is always changing. When we started going digital, I don't know, several years ago, WhatsApp, Apple Business Chat weren't even thought of from a customer service perspective. But as more and more people take them on board, they want that opportunity.
Yeah.
And again, it's listening to your customers and providing your customers with the service in the areas that they really need it. They want to choose the channel. They don't want you to dictate the channel.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're all pretty keen to a lot of the time also to do what we can on our own without necessarily having assisted service in any shape or form. But I suppose even in a digital environment, there's an opportunity for help if you need it, and it's
Yeah.
that kind of co-browsing piece as well. So what would you suggest is kind of good options around that, Steve?
So just expanding on from that a little bit more, I think, is the fact that, if you think why people go and physically talk to somebody, why you go into a bank and talk to a bank manager, or why do you go and buy something from a store, a lot of it is down to that physical presence capability. Now, being online, one of the things that we used to do very, very badly, and when I talk about I talk about customers as well as vendors, is that we don't have that means to actually complete something very, very quickly, or complete a transaction very, very quickly, or the transaction is complex. So by bringing in co-browse, you're actually able to get an improvement with regard to how quickly people can actually finish. Now, the scary thing is, co-browse is not about sharing your laptop. Co-browse is about sharing your screen. And there's a big difference. I know it might sound semantical, but in reality, showing somebody what you're doing versus letting them have access to your laptop is a huge different thing. And by showing somebody what you're doing, it means you're able to complete that so much quicker, so much easier. And providing customers with the ability to say, I don't want to do this anymore. Thanks for your help. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
It gives you that capability to do short, sharp helping of a customer to get them over that final hurdle. It's like the old adage about the going online and doing shopping and going to the shopping basket, and it's too difficult for me to close my shopping. So what do? I leave it in the shopping basket, and that sale never gets made because I forget about it or whatever the case is. So by being able then to say, okay, before you go, do you need some help?
Yeah.
Let's co-browse, let's help you sign this. It's that, and that's where we turn cost into a benefit, basically, or into a income stream.
Yeah.
And I think we'll see more and more people using co-browse to assist and to change the income stream.
And again, as we all work and live more in this kind of digital way as we're doing today, we would normally be in a nice conference room somewhere, but we're not. We're still making the most of the opportunity and still connecting. But we're all used to that, aren't we? Of screen sharing and things like that. So it's becoming much more of a kind of normal behaviour. So I'm sure we'll see more of that.
I think that there has been this big jump from not doing everything digitally, but now we're being forced to do digitally. You are still going to find that there are people who still want to go shopping inside the touchy-feely type shop.
Yeah.
But you're still going to find more and more people saying, well, why can't I do that? Why can't you show me what I'm doing?
Absolutely.
And I think that will, it'll come more and more and more.
Definitely. Well, it's been great to talk to you today, Steve. Thank you so much for preparing the presentation and it's been good to chat through our series of questions. So really appreciate you bringing your wisdom to us for the day. So just before we kick off, we're going to have a short break before our next session, which will kick off at 3 o'clock. So in the meantime, if there's any other questions you have, I'm sure Steve will be happy to take them offline. If there's anything you want to get in touch with about, then please do so. But for now, I'm going to just take us to a break, and we'll see you again just in about 10 minutes or so. So thanks again, Steve.
Thanks,
See you
Pauline.
soon. Take care.